days, and I went home, I turned on the TV, and I saw what was going on, and I immediately put my tie back on and came back out. And I went to about 5 or 6 schools, knocked at a guy who's still recovering, a 55-year-old man recovering from surgery who could stop somebody, but it made me feel better, to go out and to be with some of our schools. And I've asked all of our principals to get with their school improvement teams and to review their safety plans, and they're doing that. Some have already completed them, some are still doing it. And at Bunn Elementary School, the law enforcement has already gone through and made some recommendations. There weren't many recommendations they had procedurally. And I've asked for feedback from principals of what kinds of capital things that they think they need. And I've talked a little bit with Tommy and Mr. Moore about it. The bottom line is, no matter how safe we try to make our schools, I think the best defense is to be proactive and to appeal to our community if they even think that somebody may do harm, to give us a call. In my letter to parents, I emphasized the fact that we'd all rather investigate a false alarm than to have to deal with a tragedy. And we've gotten a couple of tips. We've got a few tips. We've run them down, and fortunately, so far, they've been false alarms. But we don't want the community to let their guard down either. But what we'll do is to not only review those plans, but we'll have law enforcement come in each school and make recommendations for us. One thing that was obviously talked about was a lot of locks. Well, we had one school that tried locking all of its outside doors except for the front door. And we had a situation where a student, a 6th grader, I think, legitimately had to leave to go to the office. But then when they went back to their designated classroom, they couldn't get in because the door was locked. So, we don't want to overreact and try to put locks on everything we have necessarily, because it also keeps the good guys out when you want the good guys to get in. So, and then what do you do about playgrounds? So we've got, it's a huge task, but it's one that's worth undertaking and examining. And we're going to do that because, as I've said to all of our folks at one time or another in our virtual convocation every year, that safety is number one, that if my child or anyone's child goes home hurt, then nothing else really matters, that day. So we're diligently looking at our not school improvement plans, but safety plans, our crisis plans. And we've had a couple of requests, and if they're reasonable and will make a good difference, certainly we're going to do everything we can to honor those things. In the budget meeting, for the people in the audience who weren't here at 6 o'clock for the budget meeting, I think a couple of you, Mr. Johnson, I think you asked what would be the cost of SRO officers for elementary schools. And the answer is pretty clear, $480,000. That's about what it would cost. Now, we don't have them, that's yearly. That includes salary and benefits for 8 armed SRO officers at each of our elementary schools. Currently, we have them in our middle schools and our high schools. We don't have one here at CC, and we don't have one at early college. But not to scare anybody, but I would like to point out that at Columbine, they had an armed SRO officer there that day. So, throwing money at a problem is not necessarily going to fix a problem, but we need to look at ways to be more vigilant, and that's what we're attempting to do when we review our plans. And I would welcome any suggestions, not just from members of this board, but members of the audience. Just shoot me an email if you have any ideas whatsoever that will help make our schools safer. If it's within our power, we'll certainly do it, because all of us are smarter than one of us, and I truly believe that. But I want everybody to rest assured, we aren't putting this on the back burner. Our principals are keenly aware of and when we have these tragedies happen, it makes us sit up and re-examine everything we're doing. But as you know, unfortunately, Sandy Hook had just installed a lock system, and it took about 2 seconds for the perpetrator to get through that door. So I don't know that that's the right answer. I don't know that we could have prevented that. Maybe somebody in the community could have said, this gentleman is disturbed, and we need to take a good hard look at him, and that sort of thing. So, but we need to be on the same page with law enforcement and with the community to keep our children safe, because that's the most important thing. Tommy is in charge, Mr. Piper's in charge of facilities. I don't know if he has anything to add. You know, it's a difficult issue at best.
I think you covered it well, and like I said, since the, back in the late 90s, you know, with Columbine, we've always had, going back to Governor Hunt's area, safe school plans, and we've done safe school surveys, so this is something that's been ongoing, and I think we've done a pretty good job with it over the years, and of course we've had, you know, officers in roundtable meeting and those type of things. But a lot of times, even with the most safest measures, you still run into situations like at Sandy. And it's like you mentioned, Dr. Ingram, they had every door locked. And of course, the guy just walked right up there and took his gun and shot the glass out and reached in there and unlocked the door and come right on in. And you know, we can't make schools like prisons, so it's, we try to do the best we can. But like I said, I guess the spotlight is on it a little more intense right now. So we're going back, I guess, re-examining and trying to see if there's any little thing that we can do to make things better. For example, some of the requests we're getting now is blinds. You know, when you have as many windows in school classrooms in Franklin County, some blinds sometimes may get where they don't work. In a lockdown, you want to close them. But you just, if you get a request for a blind today, it takes a couple of days, week to 10 days to order it and get it installed. And I often tell the principals or the teachers, if you have a lockdown prior to it getting installed, you need to move to the next classroom, you know, next door, those type of things. But these events happen though, we're in an environment, schools are just somewhat vulnerable because you imagine a lockdown or something happening during lunchtime or playground time. And you know, you mentioned the one case where one kid got caught between buildings, but some people want automated lock systems. And you think about how much that would cost from a dollar perspective to try to make every lock on every classroom and every exterior door automated. You push the button and all of a sudden somebody pushes the button and you got 40 kids on the playground. Schools are just, we're vulnerable, and we just have to do the best we can.